Does your house look like this? It looks pretty nice actually. It's a pretty good house, but is it really a great house? It seems empty. You all can probably feel it, but it seems a bit empty in my opinion. It has shape, it has detailing, it has variation within its builds. It makes use of some of the best blocks and it has a good block palette. But what is exactly missing from it? Well, here's the answer. It's probably landscaping, and you'd probably guess that from the title of the video. So let's just get right onto it. Landscaping is a serious part of building, and it should be viewed as something more than just a little extra for your builds. It completely changes your builds, and you should not take it lightly because it can severely change whether your build is actually a really good one or it's empty and average. So here's an example. I've shown it up on screen and it actually looks pretty empty, as you can clearly see. However, as you can clearly tell, I'm in a more detailed area, and this is the original house. So the original house, it looks boring without anything added to it, but I added a little bit of a pathway, a little bit of vegetation, and it looks so much more lively. It looks like someone has lived in this. It looks like that people are actually visiting this area more frequently, and it seems more like someone is living there. Without the vegetation, without the landscaping, you can have barely any life into your build. It just looks empty. It just looks ghost-like. It just looks like a computer-generated build and doesn't have anything in it. So you have to have landscaping. Landscaping is just vitally important. As you can see, I added wheat, all these leaves, all these vines, and it just makes it so much more better. So I know what you're thinking. What blocks should I use, Fumi? What texturing should I use? What details should I use? Well, it's simple. Use a lot of different natural looking blocks that you see in the world. Moss block, which is actually new to the 1.17 update, is actually a really lovely block because it provides more texture toward the ordinary grass texture that you usually see. And the new rooted dirt block actually adds more variation toward the coarse dirt and the dirt in general. It actually brightens it up. It's similar to diorite in a way. So the next one is actually soil, which is soul soil, and it's an interesting block because it looks like mud or some sort of brown substance that maybe animals have. Yeah, basically they pooed on, or they might be mud. So yes, it's all up to you. It's really all up to you. This is actually more man-made, which might appease to some people, but this is actually more natural, which might appease to other people. So it's really up to you. What do you think? What do you love? And the next one is actually bone meal. Bone meal is so important for the average landscaper because it adds something, it automates the process of adding flowers and other grasses, and it actually makes it more effective, unlike adding individual grass blocks. I know sometimes you might not want those flowers, however, it really does help you automate the process when you actually make a landscape, if you actually add landscaping to your build. Now, you should use other pieces of blocks too, and this is actually for leaves. Leaves are vital. It adds toward the atmosphere. It makes it have hedges, like you could add hedges or custom trees or just some overgrowth within your area. It really does finalize your build and makes it epic. Now, other blocks that I recommend using are actually the nether blocks. Now, these nether warts plants or nether mushrooms or nether roots are actually a really good addition to color, and it actually looks like it could be added into fantasy or more potiony type or more witchy or wizardry type builds, and it just makes it so much better. I would recommend using all of these blocks. So these are the blocks you should be utilizing: the barrels, the composter, the loom, the smoker, and the blast furnace, and the chest. All of these blocks are very nice and interesting blocks and should be utilized according to the environment that you're in. The blast furnace and the smoker should be utilized within more industrialized areas, and the loom and composter should be utilized within more agricultural areas. The barrels and the chests should be utilized in storages and should be actually be used in bundles like this. It adds toward an atmosphere and makes it seem that something's going on right here. But landscaping is mostly learned through examples and through explaining things. So let's just get right onto an example that I made just for all of you guys that are watching right now. So I already started planning, and I am beginning to actually put down the pathways or the direction of the path. I decided to work heavily with the landscape, considering it is a quite smooth looking hill. I decided I wanted to actually add some features, but I later on just disregarded that because it was getting a bit long in my opinion. So I just decided to actually texturize the path now, because I finalized upon the positioning of this path. I decided to go with a rooted dirt and coarse dirt texture alongside with some soil. I also decided to widen out the pathway because I think it was too small to fit the textures that I wanted to add within the build. So spruce planks is actually a really good wooden block that you can add in order to make smooth transitionings within each level. But because it actually suits well with the current blocks, and it has a brown texture. So right now I've added some leaves alongside some sweet berries and bone meal in the surrounding areas to actually add a bit more color to my current build. So now I am just decorating the area, adding some hay and wheat to actually make it a bit more like, hey, this is more like planted or more like weeds or something like that. And it actually looks really well in my opinion. Now I decided to add more of azalea trees, and I decided to add the nether blocks or plants that I've that I've showcased before. And I continue to add with the azalea trees because they actually adapt well with their leaves. And I continue to texturize by adding moss carpet, little plants like big drip leaves. And yeah, this is the current state. It's really looking absolutely fantastic in comparison towards its first appearance. Now here's an overside view, here's an upward view. Sorry if the cloud was disturbing this view, but it looks really nice. So that's it for today's agenda within the building tips landscaping episode. But considering that I've finished one of the examples for the build, I think I will give you a scenic tour around the area. So I'll leave you with this final message: like and subscribe and start building, because everyone needs to practice. Anyways, goodbye.